Okay. Well, I want to welcome everybody here to Therapy Thursday, brought to you by UNC Therapy Services and the Community Engagement Committee. This is something we've been doing for a few months now, giving us a real opportunity to engage with the local community in this kind of tough time of COVID, and being able to actually get together and do what we would normally do and get more hands-on with people. We're still able to kind of reach the masses now by doing it online. So today we have a very exciting topic we've been looking forward to. A kind of a specific talk about runners, preparing runners to run, strength training for runners. This has been a requested topic, and we're very much looking forward to seeing what Catherine has to say today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Catherine. And what I would say is that during the talk, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll leave some time at the end to answer those questions. All right, so Catherine, the floor is all yours.
Well, first, I'm so glad to see that we have some runners actually interested in strength training. I am a board certified sports physical therapist and athletic trainer. I've spent more than 20 years working with athletes of all ages, from children to older adults, from amateur to professional athletes. And I am here to tell you, strength training is for runners, at least if you don't want to be injured. So thank you for coming, and let's get rolling. Again, if you put your question in the chat box, we will try to answer them at the end. So let me see if I can get my slides to turn. Here we go. So I'm hoping by the end of our presentation, you'll be able to describe what your core muscles are and their significance to running. Be able to understand the difference between balancing mobility with stability, and we'll be talking about that concept today. Understand the need for high intensity, heavy load, multi-planar strength training. That sounds like a mouthful, but we're going to talk about the different planes of motion that running involves. And then also to be able to take home a few ideas about strength training activities you can do. The things that I give you today as examples are tip of the iceberg. There are a plethora of fabulous exercises, but if you have the idea of what muscle groups you need to target, you can pick and choose from a lot of different great activities. So I often get this question when I see my patients. They say, well, I'm a runner. I really don't do strength training. I don't have time, and I run 6 days a week, and that's all I have time to do. I would argue that it's better if you're limited on your time, take out a couple of your runs and replace them with strength training, and you'll actually be a better runner for it. So when we run, every time our foot hits the ground, it's about 2.5 times our body weight that we impact the ground with. That's a lot. So when we walk, the most we ever have is 1 time our body weight on the ground. But running is 2.5 times that. So we need to prepare our bodies to deal with that amount of load. So running generates high forces, and we need to prepare our bodies to deal with them. Strength training has been shown to help prevent injuries, and there's some mixed literature out there on this. But if you read the actual studies, you'll discover the ones that have actually gone on long enough and defined their injuries in ways that have taken people out of running. We see that it really can help prevent injuries. Running is also a repetitive activity, as you know. So when you improve the efficiency of your running, you're going to distribute your load more evenly on your joints, which will help preserve them for the long run. And then strength training can also improve your running economy, which is a measure of performance. It's how much energy it takes you to do the activity you're trying to do. And this has been shown particularly in middle distance runners. If you do 3 to 5Ks, this can really make a difference for you. So Benjamin Franklin said an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, but because this is 2020, it's now only worth half a pound. I think in 2021, it's going to have to go up. All right, so we're going to be talking about the idea of mobility versus stability. And let's see, hang on. We are going to also talk about balancing your strength in all planes of motion and what that means. And then progressing from your core to your hips and legs, and then adding plyometrics and potentially running drills. And we'll talk about that. And then making sure that you schedule recovery into your training week. Recovery is actually probably when we gain the most. That's the time when we actually get to take advantage of the strength training and running that we've done. Your body then goes on and builds to be stronger during those recovery periods. So for stability and mobility, stability doesn't mean rigidity. So when you're stable, it doesn't mean you're stiff. What stability requires is the ability to control movement, and it has to do with timing and strength of how your muscles work. Mobility is not the same thing as laxity, but it involves flexibility and your ability to move your joints. So both of those are important, and we need to balance being stable and strong with having adequate motion. This is really true in all sports, not just running. So our bodies are organized in alternating segments between stable and mobile joints. It's really handy to think of it that way. And our foot is a relatively stable joint. Above that, our ankle is relatively mobile. Our knee is relatively stable. Hips should be very mobile. Our lower back should be stable, and our upper back or thoracic spine, that's what the T-spine is, should be mobile. Our shoulder blade should be stable, and our shoulder joint itself should be mobile, as well as our neck. And then elbow stable and wrist mobile. So things that help you gain stability are doing core work. So that's using your abdominals, your back, your pelvic floor, and your glutes. And then mobility things are things like yoga, dynamic and static stretching, using a foam roller, if you're familiar with that. And we'll get into the details of each of those, but I want you to consider for a moment that your body's tissues are similar to a volleyball net, believe it or not. So if you take a volleyball net and it starts out with little squares and you pull and pull and pull and pull and pull, let's say on the lower right corner, and we keep pulling and pulling. Eventually, those squares are going to turn into almost little diamonds. So when you, those little diamonds are kind of like our tissues adapting to that constant pull. And running is a very front to back activity. That's called our sagittal plane. So our tissues get very organized in that fashion if we only run. The problem with that is running involves forces that are not just in this plane, but in this plane, we call that the frontal plane, and lots of rotation, which we call transverse plane. You don't need to know the names of the planes, but you got this one, you got this one, and you got this one. So into your, maybe you took high school trig and you think of the X, Y, and Z axes. So if all of our tissues are only stable and working in this direction, then we have difficulty dealing with forces in the other planes. And to be honest, with the runners that I treat, often their problem isn't that they generally lack strength. It's that they maybe are not working well in all three planes, and one of those planes has tissues that have broken down and caused their injury. So when you're trying to design your program, I would recommend that you start with the core. And what is the core? So the core involves your abdominal muscles, not just those six-pack ones that you see up high, but those lower abdominals, your pelvic floor, your glutes, and your back muscles. So we have to make sure that we're addressing all around, not just our abs. So we have lots of people that will come and do abs, but they have no glutes. Your glutes, by the way, is your butt. So that is where our powerhouse lies. So think about going all the way around the core. So some good core exercises, planks, and there's lots of variations to planks. So we see the regular prone plank, and then we've got planks that you can go onto your side. Oh, first, the variation here to make just a regular plank harder. On the lower picture, you see arm out, opposite arm and leg. That's a great way to make that more challenging, and it adds a little bit of that rotational plane challenge. Side planks, this works in that side-to-side plane, and you can do variations with your knees down or toes all the way out. Another way to make that more challenging is to raise your top leg or raise your bottom leg. And then V-sits, I love this one. So right now with all the gyms, if they've opened back up, lots of people don't want to be there, but you could pick up a rock. You don't have to have a med ball to do this. You could really do it with nothing. But if you want to add a little weight, you could use anything. We've got one called the dying bug or the dead bug. This one can also be done if you really want to challenge yourself on a foam roller, which adds a little bit of instability, which gives you a little bit of that rotational challenge. And then we've got the bird dog. This is the opposite arm and leg. And this one really does work your core very well. And you can see there's a cone on his back in order to challenge this patient to keep their back stable. And this adds an element of challenge, again, for that rotational plane. And then we've got some med ball passing. If you have somebody at home that'll do some strength training with you, again, doesn't have to be a weighted ball. It could be a rock. It could be whatever you want. And then the diagonal wood chop. This is a great way you could use bands that you may have at home, or again, your favorite rock. So next, you're going to think of working on your hips. Like I said, using those glutes is a really, really important feature in running. So we're going to build the hips in lots of different ways. Bridging is a great activity. It gets easy just doing your body weight. So you can challenge by adding some weight to that. You can also challenge a bridge, including making it unstable in that rotational plane by staying up there in the bridge position and marching, making sure your pelvis stays level. You can also do single leg bridges. Another great exercise, of course, I love squats, and you don't have to have a lot of equipment at home. You could put some books in a backpack and turn your backpack into a kettlebell. You could, I've seen people use milk jugs, filling their milk jugs with water and putting them on broomsticks. You can even do squats with just your body weight, and turn it into a single leg squat by picking up one leg, which gets higher, obviously higher force. Deadlifts. Here again, you can use your backpack filled with books. This one, you'd want to make sure that you are keeping your core engaged so that you're not injuring your back, but this is really for your hips and your upper hamstring muscles, the muscles in the back of your legs. Lateral lunges. So here we've gone into that side to side, the frontal plane, we call it. And then walking lunges. Another great one for the hips that I don't have a picture of in here is a step up. So either stepping up onto a box or onto even just a stair, but that actually works the sides of your hips very well. So our third step is working on plyometrics. So plyometrics is your helps you generate your strength or your force of your muscles very quickly. So this helps build some elasticity with your muscles. So some examples of plyometrics, a really fun, easy one is skipping. And you can do all kinds of skips. You can do high knee skips. You could do ones that you're trying to cover a lot of ground. Double and single leg hops. You really don't need any equipment to do hops. You could do this right out in your driveway or in your front yard. And you can do them side to side, and you can also do them front to back. Again, working in both planes, the running plane and the side to side plane. Squat jumps and split squat jumps. So the squat jumps are very much in this front plane. The split squat jumps allow you to work on that side to side single leg strength a little bit. So dynamic step ups are similar to what I mentioned about stepping onto a box, but this one, as you can see, we're skipping almost at the top. So it's a step up onto the box and raising that knee. So there's a little bounce at the top. And again, this one's working in that side to side plane. Hurdle hops, and you don't have to have fancy hurdles. It's hard to buy some of this equipment right now, and you don't really need to spend money. You could put some sticks on the ground and jump over them. Start with double leg, and when you feel like that's gotten easy, you can add, or you can go to the single leg. And then box hops or box jumps. So you can jump both onto the box and jumping off the box. I will caution you if you have any bone density issues such as osteopenia or osteoporosis, definitely consult your physical therapist before adding a lot of plyometric things to your routine, because they can help you figure out what things are safe based on your situation. So then we have to decide how much strength training should we do and how often. So strengthening should generally be done 2 to 3 times a week. And you ideally want to give a day between your strength workouts for recovery and rebuilding. Now, I have some patients who don't really want to spend, 30 to 45 minutes doing everything in a given day. They'd prefer to do 20 minutes and something every single day. So what I would recommend in that case is that you do muscle groups every other day. So you might say, well, I'm going to do my core and legs together on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Monday and Thursday. And then I'm going to do my upper body activities on Tuesday and Saturday. And so that way you're giving yourself a break of working the same muscle group, but you've done something every single day. So you can do it either way. And then how do you decide how many repetitions and how much weight? So they do different things. If you are trying, or at the very beginning maybe of your workout program, or you're trying to work on endurance, it's better to do a low weight, lots of repetition, and lots of sets. So you might do 15 or more repetitions with a relatively low, like let's say if I'm doing body squats, for example, I haven't added any weight. I might be able to do sets of 25, 30. Maybe I'm going to do an entire minute. I'm just going to count time. And I'll do that 3 or 4 times. To work on pure strength, you're going to want to reduce the number of reps that you're doing, but increase your weight. So, for example, let's go back to doing squats. I'm going to try, well, let's do a single leg squat, and maybe I can only do 8 in a row before I'm fatigued. Or maybe that's still too easy, so I'm going to pick up some weight or my heavy rock or my 2 milk jugs, and I'm going to add some weight to that. I strongly encourage you to use weight when your own body weight's easy. Add weight to your activities to make it so that it's challenging in 5 to 8 repetitions to build your pure strength. And then for the plyometric things, those were the bouncy, jumping, explosive kinds of things. Those things you're going to do short duration. So you're not going to do a long time within your workout. You might only spend 10 minutes of a plyometric with plyometric activities, and you're going to rest between your sets. So I coach high school soccer with some very elite players. We do plyometrics on a regular basis, probably twice a week, even during the season, we do some. And we generally do some kind of jumping thing for about 20 seconds, and then we take a break, and then we do 20 more seconds. So we want their bounce, their movement, their explosivity to be maximal, but for a very short period of time. So to kind of summarize that information, so you need to prepare yourself to run, and with 2.5 times your body weight, every time you hit the ground, you need to do some strength training to help your body deal with that. So start with your core, and then work on your hip. Make your hip really, really strong. Add some plyometrics and an appropriate running progression. So if you have not done anything for 3 months and you want to start running, and you used to run marathons, you can't go out and run a 10K and expect that won't hurt. So if you've had time off, start back running very gradually. And make sure that you've added recovery time into your strength program. So again, maybe you're going to do your strength training on the same days that you're running, but you're going to need to give your strength days a break. So I would not recommend working the same muscle groups on strength training multiple days in a row. And then some key elements for successful running are: have excellent posture, work on your core, let your hips dominate, so let them be your strength, your powerhouse. Make sure you've got good flexibility. Make sure you've got plenty of flexibility so that leg can get behind you, and that you can create some bounce, some explosivity when you are running. So we now have time for questions, and let me see if we have anything in our chat box. Let's see.
Catherine, there are a couple of questions in the chat. Liz was asking, should you do the strength exercises before the run, or should you strength train on a non-running day?
That is a great question. And I often answer this by figuring out multiple things. One, where are you in your training cycle? Like, do you have a race coming up? Or if you're a cross-country runner, is this the middle of your season or the beginning of your season? And so when I have someone who has the sort of, I've got the knee pain, but it doesn't happen till I'm 5 miles in, those people, I'm going to recommend they do their strength training after they run so that they're pre-fatigued. And then when they're doing their strength training, you must demand from yourself that you use outstanding form. so you're pre-fatigued, and then you come home and do your strength training with great form, that's probably going to help you with that kind of problem more. If you are just a recreational runner and right now you are just running for pure fitness, it is entirely up to you. So, but I will say, if you're doing a heavy strength day, let's say you've got, 35, 45 pound kettlebell at home and you did a bunch of single leg squats with your 45 pound kettlebell, I wouldn't expect you to feel like your run is going to be long, light, and easy. You may feel like you are not quite as quick. Don't sit there and hope you're getting a PR in your training run that day, because it's probably not going to happen. But you could go either way depending on what your goals are. If you are in a season, there are some races going on right now. I know I've got some cross-country runners that are racing. I would not recommend you do heavy load strength training the day before a race. You need to give yourself a couple days before your race so that you've got time to recover. So let's see, another question was, how these tips might apply to walkers. So for walkers, you're not going to have the demands of 2.5 times your body weight. So you may not need to load quite as heavily. But if you are hiking or climbing hills in your run or doing stairs and things like that, I would definitely recommend the same kinds of exercises, but you may not need to have a goal of adding a bunch of weight to them, because your demands in terms of body weight are going to be less than 2.5 times. Let's see, another one.
I think the next question was about adding upper body strengthening and what you should prioritize.
So I'm very American, and other countries don't necessarily wouldn't necessarily agree with me, but in the US, we believe in making people athletes. So a well-rounded athlete would also incorporate upper body activities, a well-rounded runner. That being said, if you're short on time, how would you prioritize? I would prioritize your core and your hips if you're a runner, and your quads along with that. But I would prioritize that if you're a runner. But if you really, for general health and as an overall athlete, and certainly if you're a triathlete, absolutely, or even a cyclist, I definitely would recommend doing some upper body activities. So we didn't include that in this presentation because it was geared really toward the activities that are most important for the run itself. But in terms of being, for your overall health and being a well-rounded athlete, yes, I definitely recommend doing upper body activities.
Great. The next question that we had here was, what do you recommend for past plantar issues? Strengthening the foot and ankle, or does mobility help with this? Yeah.
So I'm assuming whoever asked that question, you're referring to like a plantar fasciitis, so something like an irritated bottom of your foot. So flexibility in your calf and your big toe, and flexibility this way in your big toe, if you can pretend this is my big toe, and your calf. Those are very, very important. The other thing that is really important that I probably should have put a specific one in this program, and I'm going to do that the next time I run it. I often see weakness in the calf in runners, and when you run, we generally will land like, flat foot under our center of gravity, or like this. And your calf really does need to be strong. So if you've had regular plantar fascia irritation, I'd recommend stretching your calf and your big toe and strengthening your calf. So lots of calf raises and single leg calf raises. And yes, there's lots of foot activities that are really important. If you know toe yoga or towel crunches. There's so many muscles in the bottom of your foot that you really can strengthen them and make a big difference in plantar fasciitis. Come see us and we'll teach you all those. Or that'll be another good session we can do for a Therapy Thursday.
Yes, I'm just going to chime in. This is a perfect, I know we have some more questions that we'll get to in a moment, but this is a perfect segue to letting you know what our next Therapy Thursday topic is going to be, which happens to be plantar fasciitis.
Perfect.
I know, 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today, that's going to be the 15th. We will have our next Therapy Thursday at the same exact link. You can find all this information. It will be updated shortly on our Facebook page, UNC Therapy Services. But we're going to have, the next session will be brought to us by Christopher Green doing a talk on plantar fasciitis and kind of what leads up to it and what to look for and how to get out of it and how PT can help. So so we got that coming up. All right, so the next question that was asked was about multiplane activity. Makes me think of trail running and might confer some of the benefits of strength training, or at least a good adjunct. Would that be true?
Yeah, I actually think trail running and even hiking are wonderful activities to complement your, just running on the road. And the trail, not only does it allow you to use lots of different planes and change your body direction, it is also generally a softer surface, which can be much easier on your joints. And it also is a fabulous place to get away from traffic, noise, hear the birds, and notice the seasons. So, big fan of trail running. I wouldn't say it would take the place of your strength training, but I think it is a really good adjunct to developing that multiplanar tissue orientation. So yes, that's a wonderful one.
Great. Let's see. I think the next question we had was, if you have stability issues, what's the best way to work on that on off days? You might need a little more clarification of stability issues as to kind of what you feel is unstable. And that was...
Let's see. So stability. Go ahead.
No, I would say that was from Marie.
Yeah. So if the stability issues have to do with like strength, so I guess I'm not sure if you're talking about unstable, like maybe hips feel unstable or spine feels unstable, then doing your strength training will actually help that a lot. If the stability has to do with balance, then there are lots of balance activities. That would be another good topic we can write down to cover. But you can do some single leg standing, or what's a good place to start is what we call tandem standing, where you stand with one foot in front of the other, like that. And if you stand in a corner, either a corner of a countertop or a corner of a room, and try the same thing with your eyes closed, you can always catch yourself with your hands in the corner. But that's a good way for you to help work on your body's sense of balance. And you can do that on your off days or on your training days. That doesn't really matter. Standing on one leg while you're waiting for the water to boil in the coffee pot is another, simple thing you can do. Or while you're brushing your teeth, stand on one foot for the upper teeth and stand on the other foot for the lower teeth. So those, you can just incorporate those kinds of things into your day.
Great. And we have one more question so far here. Well, I just lost it. Oh, what is a good lead up to jogging if you have only walked for 30 years?
So a lead up, we call this the couch to 5K plan. So, and everyone is different with where they can start. So you could start with even just doing a jog for 15 to 30 seconds and then walking for 15 to 30 seconds and alternating that and saying maybe you'll go for 5 to 7 minutes of alternating a walk and a jog. I often find that I can start people in somewhere in that 30 seconds to a minute of jogging and then followed by 30 seconds to a minute of walking. And you'll go for generally 3 times in a week, you'll do that. And if you don't have symptoms meaning like pain or fatigue that is not, you're not recovering by the next time you try your little walk jog. If you don't have any of those symptoms, then the next week you bump that up. So if you started with 30 seconds of jogging and let's say 30 seconds jog, minute walk, then try a minute of a jog and a minute walk. And try that 3 times in a week. And then bump up to 2 minutes jogging and 1 minute walking. And you'll do that for a total of maybe 7 to 10 minutes. Once you can do 5 minutes of jogging nonstop and then walking, you can start increasing your time from that, 10 minutes-ish, start adding 25% per week at the most. So 25% can be measured time or distance, however you choose. If you decide you're going to add a 4th day, though, that's your 25% for that week. So let's see, another question that came up, is doing stairs still recommended for runners, or is that not a good practice to build strength? No, stairs are a terrific activity to build strength. So you'll want to make sure you're using good form. And by good form, I mean you're stable through your pelvis and that you're pushing through your glutes. And so, yes, stairs are wonderful. Step up is one of the activities that we mentioned as a strength trainer. And then if you kind of are running, it becomes a plyometric activity. A great recovery activity, actually, if you've done a really hard running day or a hard strength training day, a fabulous recovery activity is actually climbing hills. Studies have shown that it's actually better than climbing stairs, but you don't have to do a lot of them. But if you live near a hill, you just walk up and down the hill, and maybe you do that for 10 or 12 minutes, but that can be a great recovery activity. It's active recovery, but it will help dissipate those sore muscles faster. Anyone else have a question? And you can either chat box it or unmute yourself and ask away.
Yeah, while everyone is thinking about that, we are going to make the slides, or at least a portion of the slides, available. We're kind of working on where that landing place is going to be at the moment. So if you are interested in more information or seeing the slides, if you want to put your email in the chat box for me, you can do it. You don't have to send it to everybody if you don't want. You can use the drop down and just send it directly to me. This is Evan, and I will make sure that you get a copy. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Was this helpful?
Absolutely.
It was helpful for
I
me.
think
This
so.
is Roger.
Great.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I want to thank everybody for coming out today, Therapy Thursday. It was great to see so many people join us.
Thank you. This was so great. Really good.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catherine, for putting on a wonderful presentation today. Again, please join us in 2 weeks from today. It's the first and the third Thursday of the month. We're doing Therapy Thursday. We'll be back in 2 weeks with plantar fasciitis. And yeah, I'm going to hang on here for a few moments. So if anybody else wants to drop their email in there to receive information, you can do that. Otherwise,
Invite your friends. It's free.
yeah, absolutely. Other than that, thank you all so much. We hope you didn't take up too much of your time today, and have a great day.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thanks, Catherine. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine, that was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Evan.
Yeah.
Were you able to get the slides okay from this, or should I send you the presentation separately?
Hold on one second. If you could send it to me, that would be